I mean, it's only recently, I think, that at the MOD people have started to think, well, actually, maybe some people who've been diagnosed with PTSD are actually people who've had brain injuries. And it was the brain injury that wasn't treated that led to all the other various issues that come alongside.
But because a lot of these diagnoses were not diagnosed at the time, sometimes understanding because the symptoms are just not there, not just inside the Ministry of Defence but elsewhere, it's keeping an understanding within the medical profession as to what a brain injury is. It doesn't necessarily have to show itself straight away, it doesn't necessarily be physical, but it's inside this little cocoon we have, which we rely on so much.
Yes, and maybe, I don't know what it is, maybe we've sort of thought, well, a little blow to the head, that's okay, we don't mind, we're not going to worry about that, we've been a bit blasé about it, and maybe that's even more the case in the armed forces, where people want to show perhaps that they're tough and that, that they can carry on. But the Honourable Member is absolutely right, and incidentally, this issue about symptoms appearing considerably or sometime later.
A national review of neuro-rehabilitation is required to ensure the service provision is adequate. The government should collate reliable statistics for the number of individuals with acquired brain injury and record the numbers that require and receive neuro-rehabilitation.
And there is a hidden epidemic, which even the government isn't really recognising yet. And that's my fundamental central point, which is that it's not like there's a disease out there that people might catch from each other. It's just that there are, in lots of people's brains, things that aren't quite working right because they've had a brain injury. And that is leading to all sorts of medical, societal, educational problems.
It is imperative that the recommendations made in the APPG's Time for Change report are implemented without delay. Brain injuries that puts them at the greatest risk of a fatal outcome. The Time for Change report rightly calls for a national review of neurorehabilitation to ensure service provision is adequate.
Which we're not able to address because we haven't gone to the root cause. Homelessness and veterans. I would bet a bottom dollar that a large percentage, a very large percentage of the veterans who are sleeping on the streets of Westminster and London and so on, and for that matter around the country, are people who've had a significant brain injury at some point in their life and haven't had the proper support and treatment that they required. So you're not going to be able to solve any of these individual issues unless you go to the centre, which is to deal with this in a coordinated way.
And that's the issue, finally, for our armed forces. So we send our armed forces around the world. It's a very dangerous occupation. We try to make it as safe as possible. But at the end of the day, we need to look after them afterwards. And very often, some of the incidents I can remember happening when I was a squaddie, there was no way that I would have gone down to the MO the next day with a headache. There's no way that I was, but the barrack room kind of humour would have been, no, get on with it, you're supposed to be robust.
Proust also said that change in the weather is sufficient to recreate the world and ourselves. When the storm of head injury happens, the skies darken for individuals. And our job as parliamentarians is to bring that change to individuals through brightening their prospects in all that we do.
I really hope that the Minister will go back and kick some shins